We're good?
Yep, I can see it. Yep.
Okay, awesome. All right, so the idea, besides of presenting yourself as a business, is obviously the more you present yourself as a business owner and the better that you do it in this business, because it's a relationship business, or any real estate business, single family, multifamily, and a lot of other businesses too. Your relationships are really key to growing your business, whether you want to grow to a fourplex, you want to grow to 400 units, whatever it is. Networking is kind of the key. And when you network, you do have to present yourself, as I said, a business owner. And even if you haven't done anything, even if you haven't bought your first house, your first apartment building, you still have to present yourself as a successful business owner, because what you have that maybe somebody else doesn't have is you have knowledge, right? So a couple of things, there's something called the primacy effect. And basically, it talks a lot about first impressions. First impressions are really, really important today. They've always been important, but they're especially important today because people are their attention is being grabbed all sorts of different places, right? I got a text that came in, I got a YouTube, I got this, I got that, I got that. So when you make your impression, in the first 5, 10, 15 seconds, just the way you present, people are going to make a decision about you, right? So you want to make sure that you do the best decision, you make the best first impression that you can, and there's really 4 factors that kind of fall into that. So a lot of times your first impression, as unfair as it is, some people will judge your future actions based on that, right? So if you do, it doesn't have to be perfect, don't get me wrong, right? You don't have to be like an actor or anything like that, just as long as you seem genuine, which is the most important part. But if someone sees you and you're nervous, or you don't really sound like a business owner or something like that, then obviously the challenge when you go back to them and say, hey, I'd like to sit down with you and talk a little bit about multifamily, they're going to judge you based on that first impression. If that first impression was even neutral or positive, chances are they're going to say, yes, let's get together. If you made a negative first impression, chances are they're probably going to say no. Doesn't mean they don't want your business, but your first impression turned them off a little bit. So don't freak out about it and stuff like that. It does pay practice. You're going to blow some people out in the beginning. Don't worry about it. There's a ton of people out there. There's a ton of money out there. There's a ton of buildings out there. You're just going to have to go through them like you do for buildings to find the right ones. All right. So kind of along the same vein in terms of momentum, what ends up happening when you're building this business and you're presenting yourself as a business owner, because networking is so critical, people are going to lay the foundation for you as you grow. So it's kind of like a hockey stick, right? So just like building the business, it's kind of like a hockey stick, right? It starts off like this, like this, like this, and all of a sudden, you hit, this, right? The hockey stick. So you're gonna have to change him to Patrick, I think, Jane, when he shows up with my name on him. So you want to have the best interaction with you can, because what ends up happening is you meet 10 people, 2 people refer somebody else to you, then other people refer people else to you, and you talk to an attorney, he refers people to you and stuff like that. So the momentum that you start, you want to keep that going as much as you can. You don't want to like start and then slack off for 3 months, whatever it is, and start again. And I'll tell you why in a little bit, but you really want to have that momentum that, will guide you and direct you to being successful in this business, or to achieve whatever goals they are, $1,000 a month or $1 million a month. You can do all of that with this business. It just depends on you, your first impression, and being consistent. This is, for both single family and multifamily, and all this applies to both, right? So in single family, more so than in multifamily, but the market, a lot of people are doing what we're doing, basically, right? So if you meet a seller, right, or you meet a broker, or you meet an attorney, but a lot of times just mainly the seller, if you don't make a good first impression, chances are someone is going to come right behind you and make an offer on the building that you did, right? And if they feel the other person made a better impression, they just feel more comfortable with them and genuine. Doesn't have anything to do with the price, right? It's all about how comfortable you make them feel. So again, someone else is going to show up after you. So just make sure that you make the best first impression that you possibly can, because there are competitors out there. I think it might be, and Jane would know better, but I think it's more prevalent in single family, but even in multifamily, when we had the craziness, for the last year and a half and stuff, you get 30, 40 offers on a building. And it was just bananas, and sometimes, actually a lot of times, they would not pick the one with the biggest dollar amounts, because at the end of the day, brokers want you to close. So you may offer $10 million and somebody else may offer 9.5. And the reason they took the 9.5 is because there's a relationship with that person. They know they can close. They made a big first impression when they first met them. So again, really, really important. And then the last piece, and we talked about this a little bit before, was referrals are golden. We were talking about this the other day at a barbecue, a Memorial Day barbecue, about, oh, Jeff Bezos. And I'm like, well, did you order anything on Amazon? They're like, well, yeah. I'm like, okay, so you grow a business and we all use it, right? Well, most of us use it. And, when you go on there, the way I buy something, and maybe you guys do the same thing, is I look at the number of reviews, and what the average stars are. So if someone has 1 5-star review, that doesn't cut it for me, right? If someone has 800 or 1,000 reviews, even if they're 4.5 stars, I'm probably going to trust that better. So what I'm trusting is what other people are referring to me. I bought this watch and I thought it was great, and this is why you should buy it too. I talked to Jane. She was awesome, very genuine, well-spoken. I really liked her. I think that, you, Tom, should really talk to her. I'm not ready yet, or I invested with her, or I talked to her, whatever it may be, but you really want to talk to her because she's a player. She'll get the job done, kind of thing. So once you started getting referrals, you don't have to go out and meet new people forever, right? There are a lot of people that once they've grown this business, all they do is grow their investor database and everything else, and not have to just be investors, but they grow them just with referral business. And that's true of anything, but specifically in this one, because it's so person to person, it's very much a small environment, so your reputation gets around and stuff like that. So referrals are really golden. So anytime you can get a referral, obviously, try and do that. So you're going to have to decide when you're talking to people, who are you? What does your business look like? You don't have to know, all the way down to a granular level, but you have to be able to present, and I'll talk about an elevator pitch here in a second or whatever it is, but present yourself in a way where you are confident in what you're presenting, right? So there's 4 types of buildings. If you're aware or not aware, there's A through D. So A is like brand new, lots of amenities, super expensive. B is like what A used to be 10 or 15 years ago. C is more working class, and D is mostly war zones, right? So you're going to have to decide, like what we do, if somebody asks me, it's like, yeah, we do like B minus C plus, somewhere right in there, right? So I give myself a little room. So I know that when I meet somebody, if all they want to do is invest in brand new apartment buildings, I'm not their guy. Or if somebody wants to do war zones, I'm not their guy, right? But if someone's like, okay, that kind of makes sense, kind of middle of the road, right? Kind of thing, that makes sense to me. Okay, great. And then what markets are you in? You don't have to have a specific for multifamily. I think it's more specific for single family. For multifamily, you don't have to have I'm in these 3 zip codes and that's where I buy stuff, right? You could say things like, I'm in the Baltimore, Washington area. I do stuff in the Mid-Atlantic. I do stuff in the Southeast. But don't just say, I'm just looking for great deals somewhere in the United States, right? You may be, and that's fine, right? We don't recommend it. We recommend you identify 2 or 3 markets, but the person that you're talking to is going to feel more comfortable because it sounds like you did your due diligence. You're not looking just at any deals. You focused down and said, these type of buildings in this market. And then when you talk to brokers and stuff like that, you're going to have to tell them this. And then, what are you looking for, right? We only do value add, but there's something called equity plays and yield plays and stuff like that. There's also different things. Value add means we buy something that's struggling. We buy it at a reduced price, we fix it, we re-tenant or raise the rents a little bit, and then carry out our business plan. And then some people flip it in 4 or 5 years. Once the business plan is done, we don't, we keep our stuff forever, right? So, but you have to be able to tell them, yeah, I'm looking for value add. I'm looking for something I can go in and kind of put my stamp on and rehab and stuff like that. And then what are you going to do? Are you going to invite investors that are passive? So that will be a syndication, right? Because people are going to ask, where are you going to get your money from? Or are you going to JV? Yeah, I've got a couple of partners. They're going to be involved in the business. We're not bringing in outside investors. So you could have an investor that's going to bring $1 million to you, and you could JV with him or her as long as they were part of the business. They have to be involved. They can't be a silent partner. Okay. Or you could self-fund. I've been able to do a couple of those. Nichole is at a point where she self-funds everything, and she still gets a note, don't get me wrong, but in terms of the 20, 25, 30, 45% down, whatever it is, 10 million, 20 million, 30 million, whatever it is, she self-funds. She's gotten to the point and worked really, really hard to get there. So you're going to have to be able to identify which one you're doing. And this one, which I think I misspelled, assets. A lot of people flip them. A lot of syndicators flip them because a lot of their investors want their money back. I tell investors right up front, there's 3 options really. One is I'm going to refinance and get you all your money back and your equity. Or 2, you can keep your equity and I'll give you your initial investment back and you can keep getting checks forever. So it's basically like infinite interest, if you will. But I want to be very upfront because if I took all this time to build this building, I want to make sure that I hold on to it in one way or the other. Sometimes in the beginning, you want to flip it to a bigger building or something like that. That's totally fine. But for the most part, like I said, we end up keeping stuff. I did a bunch of flips. I was in single family first. I did not do any rentals, but I will tell you that Nichole started with rentals. And she's been in the business for 25, 26 years. And she still has her single family rentals and they're all paid off because it was 25 or 20-year mortgages and they're all paid off. It's straight cash flow right now. So, all right. So when you meet somebody, whether it be at a RIA or a meetup in person, online, whatever it is, your goal and what you need to think about is how can you help the person that you're speaking with? What can you offer them? What value can you provide for that individual? And a lot of people don't do that. And if you do that, it'll make you stand out above anybody else, right? So, hey, what do you do? What are you trying to achieve? How can I help you? That kind of thing. So really, really critical. There's 2 really critical things. This is one, and one that kind of segues into that is at the end here. In terms of a seller, right? So I know a lot of people say that single or for owner financing and stuff like that, you can only do like 4 plexes and 8 plexes. Well, we bought 257 units of portfolio on owner financing. And then we made a bid on an 82 unit also on owner financing. The second one did not come through because the guy's taxes were way too high and we couldn't do anything with it. So, but anyway, so, most of the time if you're dealing with a broker, you can't do it. But if you find it on your own, so like this other guy that was a broker called us and said, I just want 10 grand off the top, you do whatever you want. Here's the guy's name and zip code kind of thing, or name and number. But you want to present them with the best solution to their problems, right? If it's through a broker, sometimes they do interviews with the buyers, right? And you have to be able to tell them and what you're going to be able to do with the business in terms of when you buy the property and how that will actually benefit them, right? They have this thing for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. They've got some skin in the game. They want to make sure that you're not going to come in and if it's a mobile home park, trash it and build something else or whatever it may be. Along the same lines of owner financing, which is a little bit more applicable. Some people will be like, something, I want X amount of dollars for my business or for that, and I'm like, well, okay, that's fine. Why do you want all that? What are you going to do with it? Well, I'm not sure. I'm probably going to put it in the bank, right? And a year ago, though, that's great. You're going to get 0.5% interest on it. How about if I give you 5%? Because they're looking for better return on their money, right? Because they're basically saying they're going to put it in the bank, they're not going to buy something else. Or, something, I just want enough for my wife and I to be able to retire, the same income stream. If you can pay me $10,000 a month, I'm more than happy with that, but I do want some sort of security. So give me 100 grand, right? So right there, they don't want all their money up front. What they want is that monthly check they've been getting for the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years. They want to be able to continue that. And 9 out of 10 people don't offer that, but you can. All right. So, Nichole and I always talk too much, so I'm sorry. And I try to make this presentation shorter. I actually took like 10 slides out of it. So we'll kind of rush through this a little bit, but we can always have questions on the back end. So some of the best networkers are people that put 2 people together. And I'm not saying I'm the best networker, but I probably get a couple of emails or calls a week. We're saying, hey, do you know a good syndication attorney? Or hey, do you know a good local bank? Or hey, do you know somebody that might be interested in this? Or hey, do you know? And what I'll tell them is, that's okay. I'm not going to give you their information, but what I'll do is I'll contact them, and if they have an interest, they'll reach out to you. right? Because I don't want to just give people's information away unless they're like a syndication attorney. If they're an investor, I'm not giving that information out. And then what I'll do is I'll reach out to that person and say, hey, Jane called me. She was looking for a syndication attorney, Steve. She's going to be reaching out to you. I just wanted to let you know that, she talked to me and I thought you did great the last time you did something for us. So I'm going to refer her. All right. So that gives you a lot more referral leads in the future because you're helping people. And don't expect that when you give that syndication attorney that referral, that he or she is going to call you next week with a deal, right? The whole law of the universe is you give and you give and you give and you give. And at some point, stuff starts coming back and you don't know where it's coming from, right? You just never know. So put people together. Lenders, what need are you trying to fulfill with them? And Monty, this speaks a little bit to what you were talking about. Lenders are in the business to make money on the principal. They are not landlords. They don't want to be landlords. They do not want to foreclose on your property. What they want to do is they want to make money in their lane, their vertical market, whatever you want to call it. What they do is how they want to make money. So at the end of the day, they want to make money, but at the real end of the day, the number one and most important thing is that they get their money back. And investors are like that too. Okay, I'm kind of taking a risk. I understand that. If I give you 100 grand or whatever it is, or in this case, $1 million, whatever it is, in 5 years, maybe I didn't make any interest on you because something happened or whatever it is, but I'm getting my principal back. That's what's most important to them. So understand when you're talking to a lender or a possible investor, that's the number one thing that you want to do. It used to be a credibility package. You can still do that if you're meeting somebody for lunch. It's basically, 2 or 3 pages, talks a little bit about you, what your plans are, what markets you're in, what you're looking for. Or what a lot of people are doing now is actually creating the website. And you can find guys online that actually do multifamily websites. They charge you $800 or $1,000, but they say, okay, give me a picture of you, your bio, and a couple of other things. And they kind of put it together for you. And, in the past, I know this sounds crazy, we've paid as much as 15 grand for a website, and then now with Upwork and everything else, we'll pay a couple $1,000, maybe $1,000 or something like that. Or in this case, less than $1,000. So it's really become very, very cheap. So website is great. Referrals, we just talked about that. In terms of hard money lenders, this is again was more for single family, but for investors, they're going to want to know, and your lender's going to want to know, okay, great. If I give you my money for this business plan, who's going to help you? Who do you have on your team? Oh, well, I got this property management company with 20 years of experience, right? And I've got this insurance company with 30 years of experience, and I've got whatever, right? Where you can tell them and show them, listen, lender or investor, it's not just me. I've got a team of professionals behind me, right? All right, business cards, pet peeve, right? Quality counts. Right? I have two pet peeves. I'll tell you the second one in a second. So quality counts, right? My business cards are on very thick paper. They're not flashy. They've got a very small logo sign on it. I sometimes think that as I get older, maybe I should make the font a little bit bigger because it is very small, but it's got, my logo, my name, my phone number, my email address, and I don't even think it has my website on it, to be honest with you, but I would put your website on it and try and make it clean as you can, but really put it on hard stock paper. Don't get the cheap ones from Vistaprint where you just it says Vistaprint on the back and stuff like that. You don't need a fancy logo. You could get one on Fiverr or Upwork, or I guess at this point you could get it with AI, right? Just go on Chat GPT or whatever it is, if that's how it's pronounced, and just tell it, I want a logo for multifamily, in these colors. And then it'll pop it up for you, you grab it, and you're kind of done, okay? And these are the 4 criticals. And always, always, always have business cards on you. I know it's not going to happen all the time, but you never know. I've met people in Giant, I've met people at the gas station, I've met people in restaurants, and yes, I've also met people at meetings, whether they're conferences or whatever it may be. But if you want a business card with you, the worst thing, well, not the worst thing, but it's embarrassing to say, hey, can I get one of your cards, and I'll write my information on the back, right? Because what you're telling that person is, wow, this person didn't invest enough in their business to even have a business card, right? If you give them a crappy business card, it's like, well, this is supposed to be what they think of their business. It's not very good quality, right? It's those small things that people think about in the back of their mind. And you can do electronic business cards as well. They're okay. They're not as popular as maybe they could be. And some people get a little flummoxed by it. So if you have that, that's great, but always have, obviously, the business cards as well. Oh my God, I'm going way over. All right. Elevator pitch, and I think we'll do that, and we'll probably skip some of these slides here. Let me see what else is on here. All right, there's only 4 slides left anyway. Okay, elevator pitch is basically your spiel, right? It's what you do, right? In 30 seconds or less. And the way it came up with elevators is, you get on the 5th floor, and by the time you get to the 1st floor with somebody, they should be able to know what you do, and you should be able to know what they do, right? So name, company name, what you do, what kind of properties you invest in, and markets you're in. Real short, and just practice, 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 and then practice some more, and then video tape yourself, and then look at yourself in the mirror and practice, 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 because you can have the best elevator speech in the world, and if it comes out all fumbly and stuff like that, you've just lost that person. Okay, so practice, practice, practice. I can't tell you enough. The goal is not to sell them or to make an investor right there. The goal is really to exchange information with them. And when you talk to them, I've seen this with a lot of new investors. They can't wait to call somebody and go, hey, this is James. We met the other day and this is what I do. And then kind of thing, right? I recommend you don't do that. People love to talk about themselves, right? If you've ever read the book, which is the classic, How to Win Friends and Influence People, people love to talk about themselves. What I do when I meet somebody is I always ask them, I tell them, hi, my name is James Ray. I put my hand out, after COVID, right? They'll shake my hand and I'll tell them, oh, that sounds great, Tom. What do you do? And what are you trying to achieve, right? And they'll tell me all about themselves, right? And then when they're done, I may ask them questions or whatever it is, only at that point will I tell them what I do, right? I'm letting them tell me first, because what ends up happening is they tell me and they go, oh, by the way, what do you do, right? You don't even have to offer it. They're going to ask you 99% of the times, right? But it's always about them, and always follow up. If you get a business card, I was guilty of this too. I used to shove them in a drawer and then, try and look through them later, whatever it is. A lot of them are just sat in there. Don't do that. If you want to build your business, write something about the person on the back. You can go into the corner, whatever it is, after you get 2 or 3, likes to play golf or interested in Kentucky or whatever it is. And then that night or that morning at the latest, right, you need to send them an email or make a phone call, right? That is what a good networker does. And the reason they're good networkers and the reason they stand out is because 95% of people don't do that. I can't tell you how many times I've sent out emails after I've met people. I may send out 40, right? And maybe 20 of them respond to me, right? And maybe one that I didn't reach out to reaches out to me. A lot of people just, they're busy, so it's up to you as a networker to really reach out to those individuals. So follow up some more. So this was the final thought that I wanted to leave you with. I actually have this on my desk. For those of you, younger than I am, there's a guy named Zig Ziglar. They used to be a phenomenal salespeople. He taught sales for a long time. And his secret, right? His secret to his success is to help enough other people get what they want first, and you will always get what you want. And this guy was like a mega millionaire and, taught all over the world and consulted and stuff like that. And this was his philosophy. This was his driving fundamental principle. And I think if from the last 30 minutes of this mouthy investor talking to you, if you remember that one thing, I think you'll do fantastic. So, okay, so that's it. I'm sorry I went on much longer, but I think at this point, we're just going to start saying 30 minutes because we're always running long. So anyway, so any questions, comments, things you guys want to talk about? It can be about this. It can be about anything, as long as it's multifamily, we can talk about it. And if you want, you can unmute. I think we got like 15 people on here or something. So it's small enough that we can do that.
Yeah, James, I had that question earlier.
Okay.
Now bring that up.
Okay, yeah, bring it up now because I forgot what it was.
Okay, so it was talking about deals. Obviously, it's not with owner financing. So, but if you're dealing with a broker, is it best to have the money lined up first before you come with the deal, or should you have the deal lined up and then look for the funds of how you're going to fund that deal?
In multifamily, you're always doing 2 things, right? You're always looking for deals and you're looking for investors / money, right? Always doing both. Some people, right, I don't agree with this, but some people say, find the deal and the money will come. It's such a good deal, people just throw money at you. I've known several people that have done that and they've done it once. They will never, ever, ever do that again. It's like, James, my hair turned gray and I'm like 32, kind of thing. I've got an excuse. I'm older, right? So, always be talking to investors. In terms of lenders, they're going to ask you for a personal financial statement, right? Which we have copies of. If you want to just email me and I'll send it to you, right? they're going to ask you to fill out theirs. I never fill out theirs. I send them mine and they're like, okay, that's fine. I've had a couple of times when they said, do you mind? And I'm like, I really don't want to. And they're like, okay, that's fine. They may ask you to fill out their form, or don't use mine and use whatever one they send you, and then just keep using that one over and over again. So it's going to tell them about your net worth, right? And I would recommend that you go into a lender, right? And when you go into a bank, you don't want to talk to the residential guys, obviously, or the guys behind the counter, stuff like that. You want to talk to a commercial lender, whoever, if it's a small, credit union, whatever it is, you want to talk to the person that takes care of commercial loans. It might be a VP of finance, might be somebody else. It might be a guy that, is get paid hourly, but they're the executive VP of finance because it's a very, very small bank, right? But you always want to talk to them. And then if you have a good, personal financial statement, fantastic. If you don't, like a lot of people don't when they start, you could tell them, well, look, you got your elevator speech, right? So here's kind of what I'm doing, right? Here's what I plan to do. I have some people that I'm working with. I have investors that are interested in investing with me. And I'm working with a couple of other people that, have done, like you're coming to this. So you're kind of working with me, right? Don't put my name on your stuff, but you kind of are working with me. So you can tell them I got some experienced people that are kind of helping me out and stuff like that. And, I'd like to find out, what your rates are, do you do, small multifamily? Do you only do big? Is there a minimum? Is there a maximum? You want to get as much information from them as you can, because some smaller credit unions will not do apartment buildings and very few do mobile home parks. And I've got a lot of mobile home parks, right? So it just depends. You have to make sure that you do your due diligence on them, and then they will do their due diligence on you. But yes, I would absolutely recommend, and maybe you go to a bank that maybe you're not going to use, right? You just have to tell people this, pick a market you're never going to go to, and then just start hammering brokers so you learn what to do, because you're never going to buy anything. So it doesn't matter what you say, right? So maybe you want to do that. Pick a bank you don't really are ever going to use, and just go talk to the commercial people, see what they ask. And remember, at the end of the day, the banks want to lend you money, right? I mean, if they don't lend people money, they're out of business. They just want to make sure that whoever they lend it to, they can make that money back. So you have to be able to present them with a strong enough business plan that they say, okay, this makes sense. I'm comfortable with Monty. I'm going to go ahead and lend him the money. He's got other people, whatever it is, but I would definitely start tomorrow if you can, talking to people and going to banks and stuff like that. Don't go to the big ones, don't go to like Bank of America or Wells Fargo or Capital One or something like that. Try and stick with the regional ones, or local credit unions are really good. A lot of times they will underwrite at a smaller amount than some of the bigger banks do. They might underwrite at a 0.2 or 0.19 or something like that, or 1.9, excuse me, where you can squeeze a little bit more out of the deal. But anyway, hope that answers your question. I'm a little bit long-winded, so sorry.
No, I appreciate all the extra info. I'm also thinking too, that if you got a deal kind of put together and you go to the lender, they're going to look at the valuation of the property as opposed to just what your credit rating is. I mean, having a good credit hurt, but if they also see that you've got the financials for this property and it all lines up, then I think it's more apt owning the money as well, right?
Yeah, so they don't use, well, maybe they do now because of everything that's happened and people foreclosing and stuff like that. But most of the time they don't ask for your credit report, because they know that if you're making $100,000 a year, you can't make a $20,000 a month mortgage payment. It's just not going to happen. So I don't care, kind of thing. Sometimes they do now just to see, if you're a decent person, you pay your bills and stuff like that. But that's actually a great idea. Find a deal, underwrite it, build a business plan, even if you don't buy it. And when you go to the bank, say, this is what I normally buy. I don't have a deal with you now, but I would like to get some information from you, and perhaps you can earn my business. Right.
Plus, it's good practice, right? It's just good practice. So
yes. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep.
All right. Thanks, James.
All right. No problem. Anybody else?
Hi, James.
Hey, I'm trying to find out who that is.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, Jan. How are you?
Good. Thank you. Question regarding the commercial rate today. What's the average today? Do you know?
I think last week it was like 6.5 or something like that. Now, there's a disclaimer on that, right? So you might be able to get a better rate than that from a smaller bank, or if you've got a lot of experience, and you may get a higher rate if you have no experience. It really depends on the bank, right? You could walk in thinking 6.5, and they say, oh no, for you, this 20 unit, we're going to charge you 7.5 or something like that. Or if you go to a bridge lender and they go, yeah, we'll give you a bridge loan, but we're going to charge you 9.5 or 10, right?
Mhm.
So I would encourage you to do what Monty is talking about is, yes, look at what the loans are right now, but then when you underwrite or do the sniff test, make sure that you know what your rate is going to be. Because if you're brand new and you're going to get a rate of 7.5 and you underwrite at 6 and the deal works, when you actually go to the bank, the deal's not going to work and you're going to waste a lot of time.
Good point. Thank you.
And Jane put something in there about, oh, Blink. I think that's what the guy gave me the last time. So she put something in there about in chat. Thank you, Jane, about a digital card, which you can use. One of our students actually used it and he sent it to me. I'm like, dude, I don't know what I'm doing. How do I do this? And when he did do it, it was very nice. The end result was very nice. But a lot of people just, and I'm half tech savvy, I guess. Jane is probably gonna laugh, but I'm a little tech savvy, so it wasn't the tech, it was just something new and different. And sometimes people don't like change. So what else? Any other questions? It doesn't go ahead.
I'm sorry. What is the digital card? What it's all about? I'm sorry, maybe I just missed the boat.
Oh, so the business cards, quality. Don't, too much color and stuff like that. You don't want any of that for multifamily. It does work in other industries, but for multifamily, you want something that's very conservative on really thick paper, not flashy. And you don't have to have a logo. A logo is nice, but I was saying this before, you can hire somebody on Fiverr or Upwork or just go to an AI platform and just have them build it for you for free.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
Hey, James, one thing that's kind of been working for us lately, I mean, we have the business cards, we have, Sharon has Blink on her phone. And then a lot of times when we meet people, I'll just grab their cell phone number and just say, hey, can you put your number in my phone? Or, just even if it's, and because we have the puppy, that seems to be lately, he's like a real estate magnet. So just, if we're at the dog park or wherever, and then
Right.
we'll send a picture of the two dogs together. That just keeps the conversation going.
Nice. Wow.
So then we've had the, that conversation, and then later on, maybe something comes up with real estate or, something else that we can help
Right.
them with. A lot of times it's us helping them that they have real estate questions or whatever, but it still just opens that conversation, and then we have their cell phone number.
Yeah, and you're planting seeds, right? You're a farmer, you keep planting seeds, and some of them will come back and some of them won't, but that's a great idea. So this is the secret to the business, guys. Get a puppy, right? And you will be incredibly wealthy and incredibly successful. But that's awesome, because then you meet people that like pets and you have something in common right away. But yeah, that's awesome. That's a great idea about just handing them your phone and having them put in their number. That's awesome. Good idea. Thank you.
Sweet, I already have a puppy. I'm golden.
Oh, okay. Marissa, you're home now? You're not driving anymore?
Yes, I'm home. I made it in one piece.
You make me nervous, yeah, when you do that. So did you have a question or just want to say hi?
I do have a question. I know that when in the class, we're always taught to buy a building at an 8 cap. Is that the same for all markets? Okay, I don't know if I'm asking that right. Like right now, I think we're getting ready to go into a recession.
Yeah.
We're getting ready to go into a recession, I think. So
Right.
would it still be an 8 cap, or would it be something else?
Yeah, so over the last, when everything was crazy and stuff like that, a year ago, before that, several years ago, people were buying stuff at 3% and 4% or 5% or whatever it is, cap rates. And they could make it work because the money that they got was at 2%, right? So you've got a spread. And at the end of the day, so when we say 8 cap, that's like in a normal market, right? A normal market is 6.5, maybe 7%, maybe 5.5. That's normal. Over time, interest rates for commercial have always been around there. Now we had it artificially kept low for a long time. So people were like, I can't make an 8 cap work. Nothing works, right? We've talked about this before. So now it's like, before it was like, okay, if you can get a 2-point spread between what you're borrowing the money at and what the cap rate is, you can usually make it work. Now we're back to 6, 6.5. So I would tell you the same room applies, but you may be able to, if you have a lot of value add, you might be able to get in, you know, where the mortgage is at 6% and you're getting in at a 6.5 cap year 1, but you're going to do all these improvements. So you'll be at an 8 cap by the end of year 2. As long as you can get to an 8 in this environment, as long as you can get to an 8 cap by year 2, I think you're golden. And I'm seeing 7 and 8 caps now, you know, from different people around the area. So not in like downtown DC, right? In a lot of other places.
Okay, so you said like a 2% spread between the cap rate and how much you're borrowing the money for?
Yep.
Okay, and then I need to be able to get it to an 8 cap between year 1 and 2.
Yep. So the way the spreadsheet that you have works, you
Mhm.
don't count any income on year 1, right? Because you may rehab a property or rehab a unit on the 10th month, so you're only getting 2 months worth of rent, right?
Okay.
Again, to be
Mhm.
ultra conservative, you're going to take whatever improvements you make. I'm raising my NOI by $5,000. You're not going to see that on our spreadsheet till year 2.
Right, okay.
So when you say, Nichole, say, I want to be at an 8 cap by the end of year 1, what she's really saying is the beginning of year 2, when you do the analysis and you look at the cap rate, that's where you want to be at an 8 cap.
Okay. I think I'm finally unconfused about that now.
It is a little confusing. You're not the only one.
Okay. Okay, I think I have it. Thank
All right.
you.
Awesome.
Mhm.
Hey, Ferd, good to see you, man. I don't see you. I just see your name, but everything's good. I hope you're back in the country and you're on mute. So, or maybe you don't want to talk. I don't know. Well, there you go.
Oh, no, James. Yeah, I'm here. Yes, I'm back now. Yeah. I'm just listening in. Good information here.
Okay. Awesome. Where did you go? Remind me where you went.
I was in London.
Okay.
Yeah. Came back about 2 weeks ago.
I read something maybe a month ago that London has the worst traffic in the world.
I can agree. They have all the small roads. So yes, yes. You know, and because it's an island, they try to
Right.
be very conservative with their land, you know.
Right.
So
No, that makes sense. After they came out, I heard a comedian say, well, no wonder they're so packed and have bad traffic. They're driving on the wrong side of the road. And I was like, ooh.
and that's what they say when they come here. They say, oh, the Americans, they're driving at the wrong side of the road.
It's pretty funny. I was talking to a guy from the UK, from Birmingham, today, and I think I insulted him because I didn't know where he was from, but I just heard the English accent. I was like, are you from, the UK? Are you from Australia? He's like, oh, no, the UK. I was like, oh, crap. Maybe that's an insult if I tell him that. And I did not tell him about driving on the wrong side of the road. I think I was already one down when I said, are you Australian? So I kept my mouth shut.
Yeah.
Well, good. It's always good to have you. And remember, if you need anything, just, call me, set up something, whatever you need, man. I'm here for you.
All right, definitely. We'll do that.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Hi, James, I have a question.
Sure.
So I have seen so many brokers sending me stuff. A lot of them assumable loans.
Yep.
Okay. And a lot of them, most of them, they actually like maybe 2.5 years left on the loan, existing loan. So should I be concerned?
It depends, like a lot of stuff in commercial real estate, right? On the one hand, if you're taking an assumption, chances are that you're getting a really good rate, 3, 3.5, 4, whatever it is. So we underwrite for that. That's great. I will tell you that not in all cases, but some assumptions, they have a higher bar for someone assuming a loan. They did for the original person that came in and got the loan. Some do, some don't. Just keep that in the back of your mind. If you have 2 to 3 years left, you're going to have to refinance in 2.5 to 3 years or sell. A lot of
Mhm.
these guys that were syndicators over the last couple of years and got short notes or got bridge loans or something like that, all of a sudden they're finding now that they're trying to refinance or sell. And because the interest rates are so high, therefore the cap rates are going down, they said, I'm buying it a 4 cap, I'll sell it a 4.5 cap, right? And that's where I'll make all my money. That's where syndicators make most of their money, is on the back end. It's not cash flow, it's the back end, right? And all of a sudden they're showing up and they're going, oh my God, what am I going to do? You know, I got to go do a cash call, which is the last thing you want to do with investors. Call them and say, hey, I need more money to keep this place going, because when we refinance, we're not going to be able to afford the mortgage, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So well, total disclaimer, right? If you tell me I told you this in the future, I will, hold on, I'm going to do something else. Where is it? That's my answer. Now it's recording again.
I guess I have to be a little careful then.
You know, it's this is a really, really good business because it's all numbers driven, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So no matter how pretty a property looks, you know, oh my God, it's really nice in this part of town, it looks really good. And I probably told a bunch of people this story about a woman that bought something because it was her 18th deal, or 18th units that she looked at. It was very small and it was a good part of town or whatever it is. And like after she bought it, she asked me, she was not a student. She asked me, hey, you know, can you look at my deal? And like 5 minutes into it, I'm like, oh my God, you know, this is a horrible deal. Because she fell in love with the building. It was their 18th deal and it was in a good part of town, right? And I showed her, it's on the back of a napkin. Look, this doesn't even work on the back of a napkin. Forget about trying to underwrite it. Just did the sniff test on it, right? So what I encourage everybody to do, and this is true whether, for the most part, whether you are a large player that has, you know, 6,000 units, you know, or a small player with 6 units, or somebody that has been a syndicator for the last 4, 5, 6 years, or whatever it is. The good syndicators, and they have a team, right, doing this. So you have to do this yourself, but you are going to have to look at a lot of deals to find one that makes sense, right? You may have to look at it, tell everybody that just put the blinders on, right? And just know in your mind, no matter what happens, I'm going to look at 100 deals, right? You don't have to underwrite 100, but you have to look at 100. Now, some people have done really well. You know, we did a little bit of mentoring, and some people that we helped out did really well. And I think they got their deals like in the 4th or 5th month or something like that. But we don't do mentoring because it's way too much work. So we decided not to do that. These people just hounded us for a really, really long time, and they were wonderful, wonderful people. So we kind of helped them out. But, you know, I think, where did they go? I think they were like on deal 52 or 53 or something like that. So, you know, who knows? Jan, you may look at 10 deals and one may speak to you and go, oh my God, this is awesome, right?
Yeah.
But going with a mindset that I'm at 22, James said 100, I'm not, you know, disillusioned or whatever, I'm just going to keep banging away. And you will get there. You will find a deal. You just have to go through a lot of them, and you don't have to underwrite all of them. You can do the sniff test on some of them. Some of them are going to be like, I don't like that market. Or some of them are going to be like, you know, that's at a 5 cap, money's at 6.5. There's no, I'm even looking at that. So you're not underwriting everything. You may underwrite 30 or 40 or 20 or 30 or something like that, but you probably are going to have to look at 100 deals in 1 or 2 specific markets, not like from all over the country. In 1 or 2 specific markets, maybe 3 specific markets if that's what you choose to do. But we limit people. We tell people try not to have more than 3 markets. Because then you just don't know the market well enough, and it's just very complicated unless you've got a very, very large team. Does that
Thank
help?
you. Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
So there's a question in chats. So Hitanshu, and I apologize, I'm probably mispronouncing that. Should we always take 45 to 50% for expenses from NOI, even though we don't have expenses related to employees, software, et cetera, which usually big players have? So your revenue minus expenses is your NOI. So I'm sure that's just a typo on your part. So for expenses, yes, you know, we will take, and this is the way we do it, right? Conservative, but we got a lot of units, right? We never lost anything. So 10% off the top for vacancy, bad debt, concessions if we have to do it or whatever it is, right off the top, 10%. I don't care if you're 100% occupied, when I underwrite, I'm still underwriting 10% because if you're an apartment building and you're telling me 100% occupied, either your rates are too low or you're lying to me. Okay. So I'm going to take 10% off the top. Off of that leftover 90%, I'm going to take about 45% of that, and that's going to be my expenses, if that makes sense. And then what's left below that is my NOI. Some of the bigger players, depends on what you can do. I mean, I've seen people underwrite some of the really big players that, 39, 40, 41. And you can do that, but you have better have a really good team in place. So like when you go in to do a value add, you know what your paint is, you know what your vanities are, you know what counters you want, you know what, and you just do everything the same way. And you've been doing it this way for the last 10 buildings, and you just go in and you can rehab a property in 6 months or whatever plan you have. I would usually recommend that you not go below 45%, but at the end of the day, it's your deal. You just do whatever you need to do. And hopefully that helps. And hopefully that answers your question. Well, I did say your name right. Awesome. Okay, good. Appreciate that. I grew up overseas, so usually I'm a little bit better. Not always. Sometimes I mess it up, but I appreciate that. All right. So in about 5 minutes, we are going to transition to the program, transition to single family. So this part that we've created, right, is passive cash flow for life. The second part is single family, and that is sponsored, I guess, by Virtual REI Academy, of which Sharon is a senior partner along with her partner. I'm sorry, Jane is a senior partner along with her partner, Sharon. Wow, that's a mouthful. And she's going to talk today about, what are you going to talk about today?
Still building your team
Okay.
early on. So today is contractor, landscapers, handyman, kind of all the same, but a little bit different switch on each one.
And they did, I forgot, but they did part 1 of this presentation last week. So if you want to see that, just go to the YouTube page. You can watch that one first and then watch this one second, or, whatever you choose you want to do. So we got like 2 or 3 minutes before I need to take a bio break, and I'm going to hand it over to Jane and Sharon. Any other questions I can answer for you? Oh, last thing, just before the last question. If you need help with something, you can email me, and it's james@passivecashflowforlife.com, and for spelled out FOR. So james@passivecashflowforlife.com. You can reply if it came from a mailing list just to that, and it'll come to me. Nichole has been incredibly generous with me and helping me out. So this is kind of my way of kind of paying back or paying it forward, or whatever the expression is. So feel free to reach out, whatever you need, ask questions, want me to look at a deal, whatever it is. Don't call me all the time, but every once in a while it's totally cool. So any last questions before I turn it over to Jane and Sharon? Okay. I think we're good. And what I'll do is when I come back, I will paste the YouTube channel for passive cash flow and for the Academy on here, so you guys can kind of click or copy and paste and stuff like that. So Jane and Sharon, is that okay? Hand it over to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we put the link in the YouTube again.
Oh,
Sub
okay.
technology, but we're getting